is being recorded for your playback at a future date if you wish. And if others are not able to join today, you can feel free to share this with them as well. So we have about half an hour this morning. I'll get going. Welcome everyone to the Windchill webinar series from TriStar. Today we're going to be looking at a topic of PDM. Right? Are you looking for a reliable PDM system? A PDM system that doesn't compromise. A PDM system, a PDM standing for Product Data Management. So systems out there today, they all claim they can manage CAD data from various CAD vendors. What does that really mean? We find that there's a lot of compromise in those systems, meaning that a lot of features from the CAD itself are not supported. So we're going to be taking a look at Windchill managing other CAD other than PTC's own Creo and Creo Elements Direct. And I'm going to give you a little demo of the SolidWorks PDM, what the interface looks like, and the type of data that we can manage from that system. And then if there's time at the end, we'll cover some questions and answers. Feel free to enter those in your questions or notes panel in the GoToMeeting toolbar. And if I don't get to your question, we can capture those and answer those at a later time. We'll get back to you. So how do we manage data in Windchill? This is all done through something called the Workgroup Manager. This is an application that installs on the CAD user's workstation. So whether they're running SolidWorks, the other CAD systems supported, both on the MCAD and ECAD and Windchill, such as systems from Siemens like Solid Edge, NX, systems from Dassault like SolidWorks or CATIA, as well as systems from Autodesk like Inventor or AutoCAD, and some of the ECAD vendors like Cadence, Mentor, and Zuken. And this Workgroup Manager is just one interface for everybody. It's a very similar interface. If you are currently using Creo and connecting to Windchill, that interface will be exactly the same for you. So if a company has multiple divisions, some are using Creo, some are using other CAD software, the users themselves can communicate on common Windchill actions. They can collaborate, they can ask questions internally to the different groups because the behavior of the Workgroup Manager is exactly the same between the different CAD software. With the various CAD software such as SolidWorks, the Workgroup Manager embeds directly into the menus within the CAD software. So this allows the users to work directly within the CAD without leaving to access another program to be able to upload and download and manage their data within the database. The Workgroup Manager understands the relationships or the references between parts, assemblies, drawings. It also understands external reference dependencies. So if you're having some kind of a derived part or reference part, that reference happening between parts within an assembly or multiple assemblies, those are understood by the Workgroup Manager. So you can download that design into your workstation without losing anything or without manually packaging things and downloading those or keeping track of those from the database. The support for some SolidWorks specific features, which I'll go through a bit later on, such as configurations and toolbox and weldment assemblies, is also part of the Workgroup Manager. Any new feature that the CAD vendor will add, typically PTC will support it within a few months. So if you keep your PDM system updated, yearly, every half a year or so, then with service packs, then you'll be able to take advantage of all these new features. They're always being added. The other nice thing that Windchill can manage is some of the attributes coming from the SolidWorks parts. So things like materials, descriptions, project numbers, finish types on the parts, weights, all of those can be mapped when you're uploading this into the Windchill system. So then in the Windchill table, you can do searches, or you can actually see those attributes from those parts. You can also edit those in Windchill. So if your assembly in SolidWorks has hundreds of parts and they're all missing, someone forgot to put in or key in an attribute value for some of the parts, you can actually enter those values within Windchill without having to open the SolidWorks and edit that attribute one by one. On the drawing side, drawings are also managed. You can also manage your drawing templates and attributes within those borders within the drawing, directly tied to the Windchill attribute. So things like a revision, when that changes, no one needs to enter that onto the drawing. That will get automatically updated by Windchill. The Workgroup Manager also includes, and the majority of these Workgroup Managers include built-in visualization from Windchill. So when the CAD user checks in a model, whether it's a 3D or 2D drawing, a lightweight visualization will get created in Windchill. So then users outside of the engineering who are logging into Windchill can actually see the assembly, see the part, take measurements off of it, look at a drawing without having to run SolidWorks. So in the multi-CAD environment, you don't need to have all of these CAD tools for various people. They can each see the data in Creo View, the built-in viewer in Windchill, because these representations are being created by the server. The server can also create additional representation files. So sometimes I might need a Parasolid or a step file or a PDF of a drawing. The server can also create those off of SolidWorks and allow non-CAD users to download those files directly from Windchill. There are also other supports in the Workgroup Manager. I'm not going to have time to go through all of these today. If you're interested, we can definitely do a demo on some of this for you. And if you're more interested in this, let us know. We'll be happy to show you how some of this works. Things like support for configurations, that's a big one, because if you're creating variants of your assembly, or in some cases, assembly positions through configurations or component BOM tables for different variations of an assembly, or even a part like a standard screw or bolt might have various variations. That's done through configurations. Windchill will actually give you a lot of options to map and manage all of those and expose those and give you a where used to see which of the actual configurations is used in which assemblies. You can also load toolbox components or manage your toolbox library directly in Windchill or in synchronization with Windchill, depending how it's set up. That means if you're using toolbox components, whether it's the standard built-in ones that come with the install or your own that you've created, those will be Windchill aware, so they're versioned and iterated to make sure you're not duplicating parts in two different locations. Support for things like virtual components or exclude from BOM. So when you're building up a BOM in Windchill, it will understand that tag or flag that you put onto your parts inside SolidWorks. And also support for creating and maintaining your SolidWorks templates in one location. So in SolidWorks, the user can access a common template managed by Windchill. So all the users can use the same start parts, drawing borders, and different templates that you define for materials, colors, BOM tables, things like that. Okay, so I'm going to get into the software itself. So I'm going to launch SolidWorks on my system, and this is going to launch the Workgroup Manager from a CAD user's perspective. So when I launch my CAD software, the Workgroup Manager launches, and depending on what version of SolidWorks I'm using and depending what version of PDM you have, you need to make sure there's compatibility between the two. Right now I'm using 2015, 2016 is supported, 2017 is probably coming out soon, and that should be supported within 3 to 6 months after that. But within the menu here, within the CAD software, let's say I want to work on something, so I can do a file open. So I have access to my local drive, so your existing files can be opened and you can explore your local drive. I also have in one of these folders access to my Windchill PDM. So directly from my Windchill PDM, I can go in here and access my work. So I'm not logged in yet. It didn't prompt me. Usually it does. So let me log in first. The second window that runs alongside SolidWorks, so this is my main SolidWorks window, which I won't do anything with yet. Another window that runs alongside is the Workgroup Manager window. So this is essentially a web browser that is running alongside of the software. 90% of what you'll be interacting with in the PDM is going to be done through SolidWorks. There's a few functions that are only available in the Workgroup Manager, and this is usually done at the end of a design or if you need to do something specifically extra to that design. I don't have my server registered, so let me do that. This is usually done by the administrator the first time I get into the system. So I'm going to register the server. This is just my Windchill server, my Windchill PDM. So I'm just going to put in my URL to that Windchill PDM, log in with my username and password. Every time you launch SolidWorks, it will ask you for that login the next time to log in to Windchill. Now, in my case, I'm going to log in and connect or stay connected to Windchill. And I'm going to connect to a workspace that I've created. This workspace is the secure location on my local system that communicates with Windchill. I can have different workspaces for different projects inside of my design. So I'm not putting every file into that one folder. So I can kind of break out my work if I need to. So in this Workgroup Manager, I'm going to look at my items in my workspace. I should have nothing in here. If I do, I can clear out and put in new items, which I'll do for this demonstration. Now that I'm connected, I can kind of minimize this browser and keep working within SolidWorks. So let me try that again. Okay, so now if I do a file open within the CAD software, because I'm logged in and connected, I should get access to the items either in my workspace that I'm currently working on or the items on the server that I can download and work on in the future. Okay, so when I go into the file open dialog box, now in Windchill, that folder that I created, this could be anywhere on your drive that you decide to put. I have workspace and common space. So the workspace, I have nothing because I haven't done anything yet. Common space is the server itself. So on the common space, I have the ability to access parts from my standard libraries, as well as parts from my projects or product designs. I have two additional tabs which the user will typically not see. That's for administrators to manage administrative models and items like that. But I'll go into my products and I'll go into one of my mechanical products. In my one of my folders on the database, I have a SolidWorks folder that I created. It really doesn't matter to SolidWorks what folders these models are in. They don't have to be in the same folder. They could be all over the place, especially parts that you reuse within assemblies. They could be in different products. SolidWorks is going to be able to find it through this Workgroup Manager. So you don't need to specifically do save as on projects all the time to make sure they're in the same folder. You can just put the files, and as long as they're unique, I can open them within the system. So I'm going to open up this this assembly here. It doesn't have previews yet because I created this in the previous version of SolidWorks, so I'm just going to open it up in this version. When I do a file open from the database, there's little pop-up notifications from the Workgroup Manager on my right bottom side of the screen. And this is telling me what it's doing. So it's actually downloading the models first to my local workstation and then opening them up in the CAD software where then I can work on these. And once it downloads all the necessary models, I can then make modifications to them. I can also run alongside of my SolidWorks session this Workgroup Manager window. This will also show me what I have downloaded into my workspace in a more expanded listing of what's available here. So this assembly consists of just 3 parts at various revisions and life cycle states. And I can see which one of these, which parts I've actually downloaded. So within SolidWorks, once those parts are opened, I can then make modifications to them and upload my changes back into the database. I can also, instead of going through SolidWorks, I can also go through this browser first, depends on the user preference, and then also browse my database and add items to my workspace without actually opening it in SolidWorks. So for larger assemblies, this is a great tool because I don't have to wait for it to open in SolidWorks all the time if I'm downloading a lot of these models I want to work on. So for example, I want to update this drawing here, this one here. So I just want to add that to my workspace first. So there's an add to workspace option here. There's also, if I do want to open it in SolidWorks, there's a little icon here in the middle beside that drawing or any of these SolidWorks models that allows me to directly just open that in SolidWorks. So again, it'll download it into my local session and then allow me to open that, or it will open that in the session inside the SolidWorks UI and allow me to edit that file if I need to. Not sure what SolidWorks is doing here. Seems like it crashed. So let me open up that drawing directly from this browser here. If I do that, it's going to launch SolidWorks again if it's not open, and it's going to load that model for me into session. So I really want to update that drawing. It probably needs to be updated. I haven't worked on it yet. So I'm going to take this drawing. Notice it automatically switches with the active model that I have. So before it was a blue component, I made some color changes to it, and it opened that component. If I go into my drawing view, I'm going to open up that assembly and also make some changes to it. What I'll do is I'll probably change something on this part. I'll just change that diameter. Now this is an older version, so it tells me to save it all the time, but that's okay. I'll change it to 40. Make it a bit smaller. So in my case, I can go in and save those changes. And there's a little pop-up that comes up telling me that, hold on a second, I am trying to modify this part, but no one else is going to be aware of it. So if someone else downloads this from the PDM, if I'm working on the same assembly, then they can start making modifications without me being aware of it. So I might want to check it out, and that's just locking the file so no one else can make modifications to it. So I'm gonna say check this file out because I do want to make modifications to it, and I'm gonna rebuild the assembly as well with that new component. So all it is just a smaller component within that assembly. I'm also going to save this assembly, and again, I'm trying to modify the assembly, so it's not set for modification. So I'm going to say yes. Let's check out that assembly as well and save it because I want to modify that assembly. So my two components are saved. If I look at my workspace, there's also going to be these little notification flags in this browser window, Workgroup Manager window, that shows me which parts I've actually started modifying. So there's some interrelationships between the block and the shaft, so those are modified as well as the assembly. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to modify that drawing, make sure it's updated. So I'm going to go back to the actual drawing as well and modify it. Now, when I'm done with all these modifications, I'm going to put this model back into the Windchill system. Notice in SolidWorks, I have this toolbar here, which appears, the PTC Windchill toolbar. And this allows me to do some of these common options, like check this part back into the database, or check this part out if I need to, as well as create new CAD documents from my templates that are inside of Windchill, as well as open existing parts from Windchill. So there's various ways that I could use this toolbar, but for the most part, the existing users will just use their file open, file save operations like they currently do. Not sure what's going on with my SolidWorks here today. I'm going to go back out into the Workgroup Manager and open up this drawing again. So I'll make one last change to this drawing. I'll save it, check it out and save it, and then put that all of that back in. So I have my drawing. I'll just go into the PTC Windchill toolbar, and I will do an auto check-in on this drawing. What that's going to do is it's going to check back in everything that's related to the drawing and the drawing itself back into Windchill for the new view. So when I go back into my workspace, notice all these little flags are removed. There's nothing modified. And if I go back and look at my my SolidWorks folder, I should see a new version of that drawing. Now, when a different user logs in, or someone who doesn't have SolidWorks, such as if I open up a simple web browser to access the PDM, I can go in and actually explore that assembly or explore those drawings that I've been creating. So here I can run my model through some of these icons, which will give me the thumbnail of that design. So this is the drawing that's created. I can then launch the viewer that's built into Windchill to look at the visualization file that's being created off this drawing. And in my case, I have this viewer creating PDF files whenever someone checks in a SolidWorks drawing. So this is just a PDF viewer and the PDF file directly embedded in my viewer here. The viewer also can do some markups on here. So if I'm having a design review, I can do some Adobe markups, and I can save these markups back as overlays on top of the original PDF. It's not going to modify the original. So I can call it my comments. So if there's a change or something happens, I might want to save my feedback for a design review. I can then overlay those two screens together, right? I can bring up the original on one side and people's comments on the other side of the screen. So the viewer can have multi-window capabilities. I can bring up the 3D model. I can also go into my folder and bring up the existing parts and assemblies. In my case, because I'm doing this on the fly, I didn't select to create these thumbnails yet for the 3D models. I'm going to bring up another 3D model just to kind of show you this in the viewer. I'm going to add it to the current session, and I'm going to open up let's say 4 windows side by side. I'm going to add that 3D model into one of these windows in the viewer, and this will allow me to see both the 2D and the 3D all together combined. So you can open up related models, you can open up unrelated models in the viewer if you need to. My system's a bit slow here. So it's waiting for that model to open up inside of my system. So right now, this Workgroup Manager will understand the relationships between those files. I can also go in and look at that assembly inside of Windchill itself. Look at the while I'm waiting for that to open. Look at the assembly structure. So this is a really easy one because I have only 2 parts within this assembly. So within this Workgroup Manager, I can see how that assembly structure is related. What are the related objects to that assembly? One of them should be my drawing that's referencing this assembly, and any other external references or where used for this assembly would be shown here as well. And of course the history. So Windchill will maintain a history of this assembly for the various iterations or revisions within here. The PDM system also includes the ability to initiate workflows. So I can also, for example, initiate workflows for approvals for release, for example. So I can launch this standard wizard that allows me to take the assembly and promote it, for example, to a release state. So I can then go in and grab additional components within the assembly, the drawing if I need to, and then select the process that I want to run. So the built-in workflows that come with the PDM allow you to either request approvers or reviewers to sign off on this before it gets released or moved to another state, like canceled or obsolete. So there's some of these workflows that I can also use within the PDM system in combination with documenting the design as well as the process around the design. So that is the Workgroup Manager really quickly. I'll run through just a few more slides while we have this last minute remaining. You can manage your templates within Windchill, like I mentioned. When you set up SolidWorks file locations, it will actually give you the ability to point into Windchill. You can also manage configurations within SolidWorks. They will come up as standard related components. Support for features like excluded parts. Support for virtual components, which configurations are actually exposed to Windchill. Some configurations you may not want to create as component items within Windchill, as well as the ability to open and see files within Windchill and the ribbon that we looked at. And the last slide here that I'll show is the ability to edit attribute values for your various parts within the assembly or configurations themselves in Windchill. Okay, I'm going to now just look through the series of questions if you do have any and get to those. And if you have more interest on the Workgroup Manager, let us know and we'll be happy to give you more information. Okay, so one question was, can the Windchill viewer be used inside of a C# application, for example? They're currently running eDrawings viewer inside the application they created. I don't know if C# is supported. I know that the viewer API can run inside of 3 types of applications. One of them is a Java application. So if you have some Java extensions that you could use within your programming language and understand the Java calls, there is an API available. So yes, you can embed the viewer inside of an application using Java calls, JavaScript. Also inside Microsoft Office, so inside Word, PowerPoint, Excel, you can also embed this viewer, as well as inside of a web page. So again, the web page component is again using Java, but you can embed it inside of a website if you need to as well. Okay, and if you need more information on that, feel free to contact us, and we can give you some additional information on how that works and what libraries are supported. We've actually also integrated this with our own application software based on Microsoft's .NET Studio, and that one has the viewer running inside of that application. The viewer itself today is a plugin to the web browser. In a few months, PTC will also be releasing. It is actually available today, but in a few months, PTC will also be releasing a version of this viewer that's based on WebGL technology. So you can actually also use it and embed this viewer on like tablets from Android and Apple. So you can have users with tablets, looking at drawings, looking at 3D models within your PDM system. They can do that today. They just need a Windows tablet to do that, or a Windows compatible tablet. Okay, so thanks everyone for your time, and I hope you find this information useful. And if you have any more questions, feel free to let us know. Thank you all.